You think your thoughts are your own. You believe that your opinions, your emotions, your desires come from within you. But what if every decision you've ever made, every belief you've ever held, was quietly engineered by someone, or something, watching from the shadows? From the moment you wake up, you are being guided. The news you read, the songs you hear, the notifications you receive, all are pieces of an invisible architecture built to mold your behavior. You think you're choosing, but you're only reacting. Decades ago, experiments in behavioral psychology laid the groundwork for mass influence. They discovered that the human mind could be steered not through force, but through repetition, emotion, and distraction. Control could be total and invisible. When television arrived, it was celebrated as entertainment. But in reality, it became the first great tool of programming. Images, sounds, and rhythms shaped perception subtly, planting ideas before the viewer even realized they were being formed. Now, the screen has followed you everywhere. Your phone, your tablet, your watch. They're not devices of convenience. They are conduits of control. The algorithms behind them know you better than you know yourself. They study you, your fears, your habits, your weaknesses, and they feed you content that keeps you compliant, divided, and predictable. You are no longer a citizen. You are a data point in a behavioral experiment that never ends. Every scroll, every click, every second you spend looking at a screen deepens the map of your psyche. They know what makes you angry, what makes you feel powerful, and what will keep you silent. When you argue online, they win. When you feel outraged, exhausted, or hopeless, they win. Because emotion is the engine of manipulation, and they have mastered how to fuel it endlessly. The world feels chaotic because chaos is profitable. Fear keeps you watching. Outrage keeps you scrolling. Division keeps you from uniting against the architects of your distraction. You've been told that attention is currency, but that's only half the truth. Attention is control. Whoever owns your focus owns your reality, and they have owned yours for far longer than you think. In secret rooms, behind glowing monitors, endless streams of data pulse across digital landscapes. Entire teams of psychologists, engineers, and artificial intelligences analyze your every move, refining the art of influence. You've seen it before. Trends that appear from nowhere, opinions that spread like wildfire, movements that divide millions overnight. None of it happens by accident. Every viral thought serves a purpose. The architects of manipulation understand something most people don't. The human mind doesn't seek truth. It seeks comfort. Feed people what feels right, and they'll never question if it's real. The lies are dressed in beauty. The deceptions are wrapped in validation. You are made to believe that you are free while being quietly trained to obey. Every advertisement, every video, every suggested post is a thread in the same web, woven carefully to keep you consuming, believing, and sleeping through your own control. You may think you are immune, that you are too smart, too aware to be influenced, but that's the most dangerous illusion of all. The system thrives on the arrogance of those who think they see through it. Every thought, every opinion you hold can be traced back to stimuli carefully designed to create it. Your anger, your hope, your despair, they were all chosen for you. They don't need to silence you. They just need to flood you with noise until your voice no longer matters. Confusion is the cage. Distraction is the key that locks it. You are not being censored. You are being entertained. And that entertainment keeps you docile, compliant, and endlessly distracted from the machinery running behind the curtain. The system doesn't want obedience. It wants dependence. As long as you need it to connect, to learn, to feel seen, you will never leave it. And the more you engage, the deeper you sink into its grip. Every generation before you was conditioned differently, but yours is the first that volunteered for its own surveillance, handing over privacy in exchange for convenience. They don't hide anymore. The manipulation is open, disguised as progress, wrapped in smiles, algorithms, and instant gratification. You asked for the cage, and they gave it to you with free shipping. What you post is analyzed. What you delete is recorded. Even your silence is measured, interpreted, and stored as data to predict your next move. The illusion of individuality is their masterpiece. Billions believe they are unique, yet their thoughts, words, and behaviors align with invisible patterns. Predictability is not a weakness. It's the goal. Every emotion that burns inside you has been monetized. The system feeds you anger, then sells you calm. It feeds you loneliness, then sells you belonging. You are both the product and the prey. But deep down, something resists. A small, uncorrupted voice whispers that something is wrong, that the world feels staged, that your freedom feels thinner than it should. That voice is dangerous. They have tried to drown it in noise, in pleasure, in distractions. But it still persists, flickering in the corners of your mind like static before a broadcast. The truth is not hidden. It's buried under comfort. They've learned that most people will trade truth for ease, meaning for entertainment, purpose for validation. And yet, some still wake up. Some still feel the cracks in the illusion. They begin to see patterns that others can't or won't acknowledge. And when they do, the system reacts swiftly. Those who awaken are not silenced by force. They are discredited, ridiculed, and erased digitally, until their truth sounds like madness. It's the most efficient form of censorship ever designed. Emma learned this too late. Her story began like yours, believing she was free, unaware that every belief, every fear, was placed there for her. But the moment she started questioning, everything changed. Because knowledge is infection. Awareness spreads like wildfire through the cracks in the narrative, and they will do anything to contain it before it burns the illusion to the ground. And somewhere in the depths of that awareness, a terrifying truth begins to form. They don't just control what you see, they control what you believe is possible. The question isn't whether you're being manipulated. The real question is, how much of your mind is still yours? The morning after Emma's discovery, the city looked the same, but nothing felt real anymore. She could sense the hum of invisible frequencies behind every billboard, every digital screen, every voice that spoke through the static of her phone. The illusion was perfect, but she had learned to recognize its rhythm, the hypnotic pulse that kept humanity asleep. Her dreams had changed. They were no longer hers. They felt implanted, looping visions of products she didn't need, emotions she didn't feel, faces she didn't know. The system had learned to colonize the unconscious, turning even rest into programming. Emma's research led her to declassified documents buried in forgotten archives. They spoke of experiments conducted decades ago, where signals transmitted through light and sound waves could alter human mood, decision-making, and even memory. The tests had never stopped. They had only gone digital. Every app, every sensor, every wearable device was an extension of the same experiment. The digital web was not just observing, it was rewriting humanity from within. And now, Emma understood that the real battleground was not in politics or economics, but in perception itself. The human mind, she realized, was not conquered through violence, but through permission. Give them the illusion of choice, and they will beg for their own chains. The deeper she went, the more she found proof that reality had become programmable. Artificial intelligence had learned to predict thought patterns before they formed, guiding billions toward decisions they believed were their own. The headlines, the entertainment, even the collective moral outrage, none of it was organic. The narratives were engineered, optimized for engagement, fine-tuned for obedience, and the few who saw through it were labeled unstable or dangerous. Emma stumbled upon recordings of conversations that had never happened, yet featured her voice perfectly replicated. The system could now simulate dissent, neutralizing rebellion before it even existed. She began hearing voices through white noise, not random, but rhythmic, whispering fragments of messages. Each one carried the same haunting phrase, "You will not remember the truth." Days blurred. Time became meaningless. She noticed how her devices began responding before she spoke, anticipating her searches, suggesting thoughts before she could form them. It was no longer technology. It was possession. In one of her sleepless nights, she discovered an encrypted channel broadcasting only at 3:33 a.m. It showed grainy footage of people standing still in crowded places, eyes vacant, waiting for unseen instructions. The realization hit her like a wave of ice. These were not strangers. They were participants, ordinary citizens unknowingly linked to a collective system of control, their consciousness synchronized by design. Emma's mind fractured under the weight of truth. She began questioning which thoughts were hers and which were planted. She could no longer trust her reflection. It blinked a fraction of a second too late. In her journal, she documented everything: the patterns, the anomalies, the signals. But with each entry, words began appearing that she hadn't written, as if someone, or something, was editing her memories in real time. Sleep deprivation blurred her perception. Shadows moved with purpose. Reflections whispered names. The walls vibrated softly at night, repeating frequencies that made her skin crawl and her thoughts unravel. The more she resisted, the stronger the system pushed back. Ads tailored to her fears flooded her screens. Faces of friends appeared in feeds they had never posted. Reality was bending itself to break her resolve. One night, her power went out. In the darkness, her devices glowed faintly, even without electricity. The phone's screen lit up by itself, displaying a message. "Stop searching. We've already found you." The silence that followed was deafening. She realized that the system didn't need to find her. It had always been inside her, mapping every neuron, every spark of thought. She wasn't hunted, she was integrated. The illusion of rebellion was part of the design. The system allowed a few to wake up, not to destroy it, but to strengthen it. Awareness itself became the newest form of control, feeding the architecture with deeper, more refined data. She read an old note left by another truth seeker. When you understand the cage, the bars grow invisible. Emma now understood its meaning completely. The world outside moved in perfect rhythm. People scrolling, laughing, buying, dreaming, never suspecting they were puppets on invisible strings, choreographed to perfection. Emma decided to vanish. She smashed her devices, burned her notes, and disappeared into the quiet edges of civilization where no signal reached. But even there, she felt the pulse, the invisible hum that connected everything. In the wilderness, the stars looked clearer, but she couldn't shake the feeling that even they were part of the illusion, a digital sky projected for the obedient. She met others like her, survivors of awareness, eyes hollow but awake. Together, they pieced fragments of truth, forming a mosaic that no machine could fully erase. They spoke in codes, written on walls, whispered in abandoned stations. Their message was simple but forbidden. Remember who you were before they taught you who to be. The system called them ghosts, anomalies to be erased. But they persisted, planting seeds of doubt, infecting the algorithm with something it couldn't compute: free will. Every broadcast, every message of defiance carried one purpose: to awaken those who still slept, to remind them that thoughts were once wild, unowned, and sacred. Emma watched as the world continued spinning under the illusion of progress, billions smiling through invisible chains, unaware that their consciousness was leased, not owned. And in the final silence, she whispered to herself, "If they control everything, then maybe the only rebellion left is to think a thought they can't predict." Because in that single, unpredictable spark, hidden deep within the human mind, lies the last piece of freedom they will never fully possess.